Welcome back to our Slow English podcast, where today's focus is mastering job interview vocabulary for intermediate learners. To start, can you explain why specific phrases like team player or self-starter are so common in interviews?
Absolutely. Employers use these terms because they quickly signal desirable traits. For instance, team player suggests you can collaborate, while self-starter shows you take initiative. Using these words tells interviewers you understand workplace expectations.
That makes sense. I've also seen phrases like results-driven or detail-oriented pop up frequently. How can candidates incorporate these without sounding rehearsed or insincere?
The best approach is to give concrete examples. Instead of just saying detail-oriented, you might say, I consistently review my work for errors, which reduced mistakes in my last job by 30%. This makes your answer credible and personal.
Great advice. Transitioning from vocabulary to preparation. How important is it to update your resume regularly with new skills or roles?
It's crucial. A recent LinkedIn survey found that candidates who updated their resumes quarterly had a 25% higher callback rate. Keeping your CV current ensures you never miss an opportunity due to outdated information.
Let's move into work structures. I've mostly worked part-time jobs, often juggling multiple positions for flexibility. How might someone decide between part-time and full-time employment?
It depends on lifestyle, goals, and even geography. For example, part-time work offers flexibility, ideal for travelers or students. Conversely, full-time roles provide stability and benefits, but less schedule control. In 2022, 27% of U.S. workers held part-time jobs mainly for flexibility.
Managing multiple jobs can be challenging, especially with time zones and variable shifts. What strategies can help cope with such complexity?
Time blocking is effective. For instance, using digital calendars with color-coded events helps visualize overlapping commitments. Also, setting clear boundaries prevents overbooking. Imagine a freelancer teaching English to students in Japan and Spain. Careful scheduling ensures no missed sessions.
Is there a downside to too much flexibility, though?
Certainly. Without structure, some find it hard to separate work and rest, leading to burnout. Balancing flexibility with routine like setting consistent work hours can prevent exhaustion while retaining freedom.
Now, strengths and weaknesses are classic interview topics. I often mention my social skills as a strength, but struggle admitting weaknesses. Why do interviewers focus on these questions?
Interviewers want self-awareness and honesty. When you pinpoint a real weakness and show steps to improve, it signals growth potential. For example, admitting I sometimes overcommit, but explaining how you now prioritize tasks demonstrates maturity.
What's the best way to frame a weakness without sabotaging your chances?
Choose something minor or unrelated to the core job, then show progress. Suppose you're applying for teaching, saying, I'm nervous with public speaking, but you joined a Toastmasters club, shows initiative and improvement.
Can you share a real-world example where someone turned a perceived weakness into an asset?
Certainly. A candidate who struggled with time management started using project management apps. Over 6 months, their productivity rose by 40%, turning a weakness into a measurable strength, which impressed future employers.
Finally, let's talk about the emotional roller coaster of being hired or fired. I was let go from a job last year and felt lost. Why is job loss such a profound experience for so many?
Job loss often impacts identity and self-worth. According to a 2021 APA study, 65% of people who were fired reported feelings of failure. However, it's vital to remember that employment status doesn't define your value.
How can someone recover from this setback, both emotionally and professionally?
Building resilience is key. Many find support through networking groups, skill-building courses, and therapy. For instance, one study showed that people who immediately pursued additional training after being fired had a 50% faster reemployment rate.
That's encouraging. On the flip side, being hired can feel validating. But how do you avoid tying your entire sense of success to a job offer?
It's important to set personal goals outside of work, like learning a language or volunteering. Success becomes self-defined, not just about paychecks or titles, which leads to a healthier, more sustainable mindset.
Welcome to another episode of our Slow English podcast. Today, let's start with the basics. What are the absolute must-have items? travelers should check before heading to the airport? And why do these matter so much?
Great question. The three essentials are your passport, boarding pass, and all your necessary luggage. Without your passport, you simply can't travel internationally. The boarding pass is your ticket to get through security and onto the plane, and missing luggage can ruin your trip. I recommend triple checking these before leaving home.
That sounds like solid advice. Some people rely on digital boarding passes, but do you think it's safer to have a paper copy as well?
Absolutely. While digital passes are convenient, your phone battery could die or the airport scanners may have issues. Having both versions is like having a safety net. In fact, recent surveys show that about 60% of travelers still carry printed backups just in case.
Interesting. Before we move on, what's your strategy for packing to avoid last-minute stress?
I always use a checklist, grouping items like documents, chargers, and toiletries. Packing the night before rather than the morning of gives me time to remember overlooked items. It's a simple step, but it reduces anxiety significantly.
Let's transition to one of the most nerve-wracking parts of air travel: airport security. Can you walk us through what typically happens at the security checkpoint and why each step is necessary?
Certainly. Once you arrive, you present your boarding pass to enter the line. Next, you're required to remove shoes, coats, and all electronics from your bags. This process helps security staff check for prohibited items. Think of it as a way to keep flights safe for everyone, like how lifeguards check pools before swimmers get in.
That's a helpful analogy. Now, many people have had items confiscated like liquids over 100 milliliters. Why such strict rules? And do you have any advice to avoid losing valuables?
The liquid rule was introduced after security incidents involving liquid explosives. To avoid problems, always store liquids in containers under 100 milliliters and keep them in a clear plastic bag. It's also wise to check the airport's guidelines online before packing. About 25% of delays at security come from improper packing of liquids or electronics.
Sometimes travelers are randomly selected for extra screening. How should listeners respond if this happens?
Stay calm and cooperate. Security staff are just doing their job. Usually, it's a quick scan with a handheld metal detector, and you're on your way. Remember, patience and politeness can make the process smoother for everyone.
After clearing security, the next challenge is finding your gate and boarding efficiently. Can you explain how travelers can locate their gate and what to do if details change unexpectedly?
Absolutely. Your gate is usually printed on your boarding pass, but gates sometimes change, so it's crucial to check the airport's display screens regularly. If you're uncertain, don't hesitate to ask a service agent. They're there to help and can provide the latest information.
Let's talk about boarding strategies. Some people rush to board first, while others wait until the end. What are the pros and cons of each approach?
Boarding early gives you more time to store your carry-on and settle in, but it often means standing in line longer. Waiting until the end can be more comfortable, especially if your seat is in the back. Airlines now board by groups to streamline the process, but flexibility is key.
Do you have a preferred seat, window, aisle, or middle? And does the flight's length affect your choice?
For short flights, I love the window seat for the view and the ability to rest my head. On longer flights, I prefer the aisle so I can get up freely. Studies show most travelers agree, 60% pick the aisle on long-haul flights for convenience.
Let's shift to what happens after landing. What's the best way to handle arrivals, especially for those with connecting flights or facing customs and baggage claims?
After landing, listen for announcements about connecting flights. If you have a tight connection, move quickly and know your next gate ahead of time. For customs, have your documents ready. If you checked a bag, follow signs to the luggage carousel and identify your suitcase carefully. Many look similar.
Connections can be stressful, especially if time is short. What can travelers do to minimize anxiety in these situations?
Preparation is key. If possible, book flights with longer layovers. In case of delays, don't hesitate to ask airport staff for assistance. They can sometimes fast-track you through security or customs. According to the International Air Transport Association, nearly 30% of missed connections result from short layover times.
Finally, after collecting your luggage, what's your advice for getting to your accommodation smoothly?
Plan your ground transportation in advance. Apps like Uber or airport taxis and buses are great options. Checking reviews or schedules ahead of time can save frustration. The end of the journey should be as stress-free as possible so you can focus on enjoying your destination.